You didn't see Shedeur backing down.
No,
You
that's true.
saw him rising and being that leader. You saw him going right back to Jerry Jeudy, and stating his case as your starting quarterback. That we hope that he can maybe be that franchise quarterback long term. You got to be a guy who can wear big boy pants and you can have accountability. We heard it after the game from him. You want to be able to look at him and say, yep, I'm seeing steady growth every single week. I'm seeing that he's taking care of those bad habits.
Yeah.
He's starting to show some wow things on film, which we are seeing, but we just need to see more of them. And you just want to see that steady growth, and you want to see him being able to overcome some of those things that were bad habits that caused him to fall to the 5th round.
The Cleveland Browns are 3-9. And right in the middle of it all sits a rookie quarterback named Shedeur Sanders, desperately trying to prove he's not just another overhyped prospect drowning in the franchise's toxic waters. Joe Thomas didn't pull punches when analyzing Sanders through 2.5 games. He acknowledged the flashes of brilliance that made the Browns take a chance on Deion Sanders' son in the first place. The cannon arm, the clutch gene, the swagger that makes receivers believe and defenses second guess.
Seen all the good things that the Browns were excited about when they drafted him, all the things that made him such a cult hero in college, the elite accuracy down the field, the willingness to push the football, to, in big moments, rise to the occasion, become that leader, that voice in the locker room that people look up to.
But then came the hammer. Thomas pointed out every single flaw that scouts circled in red marker during the pre-draft process. The sack-taking habits that turn promising drives into 3rd and forevers. The pocket drifting that makes offensive coordinators age in dog years. The processing delays that leave windows closing before Sanders even recognizes they're open.
You've also seen a lot of the things on film so far that caused them to fall to the 5th round, namely taking sacks, drifting the pocket, not seeing things quite clearly from a defensive standpoint, processing being a little bit slow, which leads to those sacks.
And here's where it gets absolutely crucial. Thomas made it crystal clear that after watching Sanders for 3 games, the jury is still completely out on whether this kid can be a franchise quarterback. Not because the talent isn't there, but because the development hasn't happened yet.
But you have yet to see that real thing that says he's definitely our franchise quarterback in the future. And really, that's what we're trying to figure out right now, as he is the starter here probably for the rest of this season.
Think about that for a second. The Browns are 12 games into a lost season, and their Hall of Fame analyst still can't definitively say whether their quarterback of the future has what it takes. That's not a Shedeur Sanders problem. That's a coaching problem. That's a Kevin Stefanski problem. Now let's talk about the Jerry Jeudy sideline explosion that had social media melting down faster than the Browns' playoff hopes. You know the clip. Star receiver screaming at the rookie quarterback on national television. The kind of moment that either breaks young signal callers or forges them into leaders.
But those guys on the field need to know, and on the locker room, need to know that he's not a pushover. He's a guy that he's going to let his voice be heard. He's going to tell you what he feels. And as he becomes more comfortable in that position, I think you're going to see it a little bit more. And as he starts understanding the offense.
Thomas actually defended Sanders here, and his reasoning reveals everything wrong with how this team is being managed. He praised Sanders for not backing down, for going right back at Judy with that competitive fire, for showing he's got the backbone to handle adversity in a league that will absolutely eat you alive if you show weakness. But here's what Thomas didn't say, and it's screaming between the lines. Why is a second start rookie quarterback being put in positions where his veteran receivers are melting down on the sideline in the first place? Where's the coaching infrastructure that should be preventing these combustible situations? Where's the game plan that plays to Sanders' strengths while protecting him from his weaknesses? Jerry Jeudy has been miserable all season long. His numbers are down, his body language is terrible, and now he's publicly feuding with the rookie quarterback who's been in the building for less than 6 months. That's not player development. That's a powder keg with Stefanski holding the match.
Okay. Jerry Jeudy, when you was going crazy at the press conference and you was giving all kind of short answers, I didn't even go after you. I said, maybe he had a bad day. He was giving one-word answers. One-word answers. Did I go after you? I said, maybe you had a bad day.
Let's get real about what's happening up front, because this is where Joe Thomas's expertise becomes absolutely devastating for the Browns coaching staff. This man spent 11 seasons making the impossible look routine. He protected quarterbacks who had no business staying upright in NFL pockets. He turned trash offensive schemes into functional running games through sheer force of will and technical perfection. So when Thomas talks about what he's seeing with Sanders taking sacks and drifting in the pocket, he's not just throwing out generic criticism, he's diagnosing a systematic failure. The Browns have one of the worst offensive lines in football right now. They're getting Sanders killed, and instead of adapting the offense to feature quick releases, max protection, and simplified reads, Stefanski is running the same plotting system that requires quarterbacks to hold the ball and go through progressions like they're operating behind the Dallas Cowboys' fortress of an offensive line.
Yeah, he's a rookie in his second start. He hasn't had a lot of reps with these starters. And so he's going to make mistakes. He's going to miss throws. He's going to miss guys that were open. He's maybe going to look one way and he should have looked the other way. Like, that's all part of growing as a quarterback.
It's malpractice, pure and simple. Thomas mentioned watching Sanders struggle with processing speed and seeing things from a defensive standpoint. You know what fixes that for rookie quarterbacks? Reps in situations where they can succeed. Play-action bootlegs that give them half-field reads. RPOs that create natural conflict for linebackers. Screen games that get the ball out fast and let your playmakers work in space. Instead, Sanders is dropping back into 7-step drops with protection that collapses faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. He's being asked to diagnose NFL defenses with the kind of pre-snap recognition that takes years to develop, all while knowing that 1 second too long in the pocket means another blindside hit that could end his season.
When you look at what Andrew Berry has done this season with the draft back in the spring, he's picked a lot of great players up front. And Harold Phantom was one of those guys that probably not a lot of people in the national scene outside of maybe Ohio knew who he was, but he's definitely been a diamond in the rough.
Thomas praised Andrew Berry for finding gems in the draft like Fannin. That's great. But what's the point of drafting talented skill players if your offensive coordinator won't scheme them open? What's the point of investing in a 5th-round quarterback if you're going to throw him into the fire without any of the developmental support that successful franchises provide? Let's dig deeper into what Thomas identified as Sanders' biggest issue: processing speed. This is where the coaching failure becomes most obvious and most frustrating. Processing isn't just about raw intelligence or football IQ. It's about pattern recognition. It's about getting enough quality reps against NFL defenses that you start recognizing coverages pre-snap instead of post-snap. It's about having a simplified game plan that allows young quarterbacks to operate with confidence instead of hesitation. Patrick Mahomes didn't become Patrick Mahomes by being thrown to the wolves as a rookie. He sat behind Alex Smith for a year and learned Andy Reid's system inside and out. When he finally took over, Reid built an offense specifically designed to maximize Mahomes' ridiculous arm talent while minimizing his tendency to freelance too much. Josh Allen looked completely lost his rookie year because the Bills put him in an impossible situation with 0 weapons and a coaching staff that didn't know how to develop quarterbacks. It took Brian Daboll coming in with a plan specifically tailored to Allen's unique skill set before he became a superstar. Shedeur Sanders is being set up for failure in the exact same way. He's getting sacked because he holds the ball too long. Why is he holding the ball too long? Because the routes aren't getting open fast enough. Because the protection is breaking down immediately. Because there's no coherent plan to put him in position to succeed.
That he's taking care of those bad habits. Yeah. He's starting to show some wow things on film, which we are seeing, but we just need to see more of them. And you just want to see that steady growth, and you want to see him being able to overcome some of those things that were bad habits that caused him to fall to the 5th round.
Thomas said it himself. Sanders has shown wow throws on film. The cannon arm that can fit balls into windows that most quarterbacks wouldn't even attempt. But those highlights are getting buried under an avalanche of sacks and 3-and-outs because the infrastructure around him is completely broken. Here's the bottom line that Joe Thomas danced around but never quite said directly. Kevin Stefanski is failing Shedeur Sanders. Not because Stefanski is a bad coach necessarily, but because he's proven incapable of adapting his system to fit his personnel. Stefanski won Coach of the Year twice, both times with established quarterbacks who could operate within his preferred offensive structure. Baker Mayfield in his best season, Joe Flacco in that miracle run last year. Both veteran quarterbacks who could process defenses quickly, get the ball out fast, and make the throws Stefanski's system requires. But when faced with a developmental quarterback who needs a tailored approach, when the offensive line can't hold up for traditional dropbacks, when the weapons aren't elite enough to win one-on-one matchups consistently, Stefanski has no answers. He just keeps running the same plays that worked 5 years ago with completely different personnel and expects different results. That's the definition of insanity, and it's destroying any chance Sanders has of becoming the quarterback this franchise desperately needs.
What's ever happened to me watching him on film right now is Myles Garrett, because I don't really know what I could do to try to block him. And I know that's the feeling that every tackle has going into those games, and that's why he's double teamed by everybody.
Thomas spent significant time discussing Myles Garrett's dominance and the upcoming chance to break the sack record. He talked about offensive linemen having nightmares about facing Garrett, about the impossible task of trying to block someone who can literally change direction mid-rush without losing speed. The contrast is devastating. The Browns have an all-time great defensive player doing superhuman things on one side of the ball, and on the other side, they're wasting a rookie quarterback's developmental window by refusing to adapt their offensive approach. Garrett makes tackles look foolish because he's operating in a scheme that maximizes his unique physical gifts. He's not being asked to drop in coverage or play nose tackle. He's unleashed as an edge rusher with the freedom to destroy opposing quarterbacks however he sees fit. Why can't Stefanski show that same level of schematic intelligence with Sanders? Joe Thomas didn't explicitly call for Kevin Stefanski's job. He didn't need to. His analysis of Shedeur Sanders and the current state of the Browns' offense said everything that needed to be said. This is a rookie quarterback with franchise potential being systematically undermined by coaching that refuses to adapt. He's taking unnecessary hits. He's being put in impossible situations. He's showing flashes of brilliance that get immediately buried under schematic failures. And the truly terrifying part? The Browns are running out of time to fix this. Every game Sanders spends getting demolished behind a terrible offensive line is a game where he could develop terrible habits. Every week he spends in an offense that doesn't suit his skills is a week where his confidence takes another hit. Because if they don't figure this out fast, Sanders might end up as just another cautionary tale. Another talented prospect who never reached his potential because the Browns couldn't get out of their own way. And Joe Thomas just put the entire organization on notice. Fix this now, before it's too late.